We're back out at the beautiful Banner shooting range for another fun video with our Beretta 84BB. Now, in the past, you've seen this firearm go head-to-head against the Beretta 80X Cheetah. We'll say the newer, updated 2020s version of this firearm. Let's look at a more budget-friendly, shall we say, though looks will be a little deceiving, a budget-friendly version of a very similar firearm, a clone of a double stack 380 Beretta, the Girsan, in this case, the MC-14T. That's right, Goldie's making an appearance today, mostly because I forgot to borrow the Desert Tan version from the crew from this video. So Goldie it is. And while she has a pretty face, let's see if she can put pretty holes on paper today. And if we put holes on paper, how pretty those holes are compared to our 84BB. Let's start with the 84BB here today. We'll have 11 rounds of Federal 95 grain full metal jacket in our magazines. And a nice thing about this 84BB is, unlike say the 80X or some other versions, is the safety does not decock the firearm. It does disengage the trigger to where you could carry this firearm cocked and locked, or 1911 style, however you want to think of it. So we'll do our first shot though, because you can also drop the hammer and you could carry this more like say a decocked firearm, a duty style pistol, where your first shot is that long double action trigger pull. You could even use the safety in that case. Though if I was carrying this firearm hammer down, I would have the safety off, where that long double action trigger pull is effectively the safety. So here we go. I'll start with our 84BB, bottom left target. First shot will be single or double action. Here we go. Now I'm using the magazine this firearm comes with for that first set. Because it's old, we'll call it classic magazines. The hold open on empty doesn't work like it should reliably. Goldie here, it's a clone of, I want to say, a Beretta Model 86, though it has a trick up its sleeve that some versions of the Beretta and the Browning have. It's not just a pretty face with the gold plating. Its claim to fame, shall we say, is the tip-up barrel. So using this little lever on the side, you can pop open the barrel and you can load the firearm without ever having to articulate the slide. So, gonna need a Band-Aid. Well, our firearms are gonna get a little bloody today. Thumb is cut, but it is what it is. Now on this firearm, in similar fashion, the ambidextrous safety is also just a safety, not a decocker, and it also disengages the trigger. So you can load this firearm without ever having to articulate the slide. You have your safety where you can carry it safety on or safety off, and same as the Beretta. If you want, your first shot can be double action, where that long double action trigger pull acts as your safety. Here we go, bottom right target. And as you can see, with the magazine that comes with the Girsan, it will lock the slide open on empty. And what I'll probably do is a handful of shots later, using this magazine, see if it works in the Cheetah, and how the hold open on empty works. I would say our holes on paper fairly comparable, and I think an argument can be made, at least for the first magazine, that the MC-14T slightly better. For our second set of magazines, we're going to aim at our top targets, 10 shots in the magazine. I'll do 2 shots with my right-handed, two-handed grip, 3 shots right-handed, transition to left-handed, 3 shots left-handed, final 2 shots with the left-handed, two-handed grip. We'll just do all these shots single action. Here we go. Starting this time with the MC-14T tip up. Okay, good reliability. We put a handful of hits on the target, at least one-handed. One thing I will say is, while it's not the coldest day of the year by far yet, it is pretty chilly out, and we have a cold wind blowing, which you can probably tell off the cam on the microphone into our face. My hands are a little chilly. Both these firearms are straight blowback, and at least on the MC-14T, the grip feels a little thinner, and something about that thinner grip, it's probably the grip panels, feels a little more demanding on the recoil compared to our 84 BB. We'll see if that trend continues in the one-handed shooting, and hopefully we can at least put some hits also one-handed on the target with the Beretta. Here we go. Okay, so far, after 2 sets of magazines, both one-handed and two-handed, Goldie not only is the prettier face, it's putting the prettier holes on paper. Let's do a couple rounds through the 84 BB using the made by Metgar Girsan magazine here. I'm pretty sure Metgar also makes the modern Beretta magazine. So anyway, here we go. We'll do it that same top left target, and we'll see if the hold open on empty works with a new magazine. I'm going with no. To finish out the day, let's give these firearms our classic accuracy comparison test. Out at 7 yards, I've set up our 1.5-inch targets. We'll do 7 shots from each firearm. Beretta at the left-hand target, Girsan MC-14T at the right-hand target, and we'll see how many, if any, hits we can put on these targets here today. Starting with the Beretta 84 BB Cheetah at that left-hand target. Here we go. First shot, we'll do double action from our firearms. Well, it looks like from our 84BB, we were a little high of the target with no hits on the target or the business card. Let's see if Goldie can do any better. Here we go. Okay, looks like Goldie might be the winner. As we dive into today's conclusion, we can safely say we saw two fun and functional 380s that are both competing for the more budget-minded consumer, but with a slightly different focus. Priced in that $300 to $400 ballpark, long since discontinued, but commonly found most of the time as a surplus import, the 84BB Cheetah has that big Beretta name and build quality on its side. Compared to the much more expensive 80X, the 84BB is perfect for those who want Beretta but are on a budget. It is accurate, reliable, easy to shoot, has a decent capacity, and the mild recoil that goes with a compact all-metal 380. The 84BB is the perfect example of old but not obsolete. It's functional for those who are looking for a carry 380 that's bigger than pocketable, and it longs for cheaper ammo to help go with the amount of fun it is to practice with. Priced in that $400 to $500 ballpark, the MC-14T finds itself a little more expensive compared to the 84BB surplus imports, but still quite a bit cheaper than the 80X of today. With its claim to fame being that tip-up barrel, the MC-14T is more friendly to those who have hand strength or mobility concerns. Based on a Beretta, it makes sense that the MC-14T is also accurate, reliable, easy to shoot, with a decent capacity, and the mild recoil of an all-metal 380. Earlier in the video, you would have heard me comment on these sights. Besides the slight difference between where the rear dots are, we're calling the sights on these two firearms the same. I'd say the triggers are another area where they are so close as to consider them the same. It is not surprising the 84BB has a better than decent factory trigger, though it is a little surprising, at least in my opinion, that the trigger on the MC-14T is so usable. Neither are custom shop good, but both are better than expected. In terms of recoil, again, earlier I said the 84BB had more manageable recoil. While the recoil impulse of these two firearms is very similar, I stand by my previous assessment that the 84BB has slightly less recoil. I believe that mostly comes down to the slight difference in the grips. The 84BB is a little fatter in the hand, and I think that extra surface area helps spread the recoil across more of your hand versus the narrower focus of the MC-14T. Goldie obviously wins the cosmetic battle, but had I remembered to borrow the crew's Desert Tan version, the 84BB would have probably had the slight edge on that front. While Goldie won that cosmetics battle by a landslide, there is one aspect where the 84BB wins hands down: cleaning. When it comes time for cleaning and maintenance, the 84BB wins. Unfortunately, and it seems weird to say this, there's no easy way to field strip the MC-14T. There's no removing the slide, the barrel, or the recoil spring. The gunsmithies out there might try and remove the pin necessary to get the barrel off, but the manufacturer doesn't recommend anything more than just putting a bore brush down the barrel and wiping the firearm down. Another aspect of the MC-14T that some people might find hard to believe is you cannot unload a round from the chamber by articulating the slide. This pistol has no extractor. To remove a round from the chamber, you need to tip up the barrel and dump the round out. While that doesn't sound like much in terms of something like clearing the pistol when the range goes cold, if you have a failure to fire or eject in a self-defense situation, it becomes very problematic. On the bright side, both of our MC-14Ts have been very reliable thus far, though with how limited the cleaning is that they get, combined with no extractor, And the elephant in the room is, how long will that trend continue? So far, it's hundreds and hundreds of rounds. Fingers crossed it continues for thousands and thousands of rounds. Side by side with the 84BB, and it's hard for me not to give the edge in terms of value to the Beretta. Yes, Goldie looks pretty and is a lot of fun come range day, and it happened to put the prettier holes in paper today, but it's hard for me not to say the Beretta wins. Other than for those who need the tip-up barrel for hand strength or mobility concerns, what we'll call the limitations of the MC-14T made for too much of a challenge for it to one-up the 84BB. Some will probably say that the MC-14 BDA is a better apples-to-apples comparison to the 84BB, and that's true. The MC-14 BDA in many ways is a closer cousin to the 84BB than the MC-14T is. Hopefully in the future we'll get our hands on an MC-14 BDA to be able to do that comparison. It would be closer in both price and features to the 84BB. Well, anyway, that seems like the perfect spot to end today's video. If you enjoyed today's presentation, like it, share it with your friends and family. Those things are free, and it really helps the channel greatly. If you didn't enjoy today's video, go ahead and like it anyway. No one's going to know that you did it, and it helps us out a lot. Fred and I really appreciate you getting this far. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a nice night.